Hello there and a very warm welcome to another edition of Channels Beam. I am Victor Matthias. Now, Nigerian workers join their counterparts around the world to celebrate International Workers' Day. However, while the celebrations are ongoing, there is a growing concern as to the number of young people trooping out of the country in what has now been referred to as the Japa syndrome. On the show today, we'll take a look at the working conditions of Nigerian workers, why the Japa syndrome has become popular amongst workers, including senior and management level staff, as well as proper solutions to that. And we'll also take a look at the National Data Protection Bill, which has been approved by the Federal Executive Council for further ratification and endorsement by the National Assembly. But before we do all of that, let's first of all take a look at the trending topics in the past week.
Nigerian workers joined their counterparts around the world to celebrate International Workers' Day, a day set aside by the international labor movement to celebrate and honor the men and women who work tirelessly to contribute to the development of the country. Nigerians are not resting on their oars as they continue to call on the federal government to rescue students and other Nigerians stranded in war-ravaged Sudan. Though $1.2 million was approved for buses to convey the students back to Nigeria, reports of delay in admitting the students on the bus and stopping midway the trip were recorded as the drivers claim they are yet to be fully paid.
Very well, there you go. Those were the trends in the past week. But joining us to look at today's topic, we have with us right here in the studio, Lupe Anaka to my immediate right. He's the MD CEO of Exo Sports, and he was a candidate for the Benue House of Assembly on the platform of Labour Party in the 2023 general elections. It's a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Thank you very much.
Of course, we also have Adam Zadagiri. He is a managing partner at Padial Resources, a leading career and management development company based in Abuja. It's a pleasure to have you as well.
Thank you very much.
So again, first and foremost, happy Workers' Day, to both of you. But like I said, I mean, we already have this syndrome. It's brain drain, but we call it Japa right here in Nigeria. But just before we get into, why we're having all of that, what would you say? How would you describe the current working conditions in the country?
Well, personally, I think the government has a very huge role to play in trying to keep its citizens stable. The society or the provisions that the government have made for we indigents are not sufficient enough to keep us. Recently, there was this news about the National Assembly trying to make a law about doctors tying down the doctors for a number of years to practice here for a number of years before they can travel out for practice. Yeah. And I feel that there are more different issues that they should have addressed rather than trying to go and make laws to tie them down. They should have gone into question, why are the doctors even living? The basic, even their salaries, the welfare are not well catered. The doctors are not well catered for. The equipment, if you go to the hospitals, the equipment they have there, the facilities, they're not conducive enough. Medicine is not, I don't think people go to study medicine because they want to become rich overnight. Most of the doctors are there because they have the passion to do that job. If you go to more developed countries, the US, the UK, most of the doctors that are doing very well there are Nigerians. So why are they there? It's not really about the money, but it's about the facilities, having sufficient equipment, the welfare. So I feel if these matters are addressed, you would have even more foreign doctors, even the ones who schooled outside, want to come back and work here.
Yes, so you said something else. Why are they there? Let me put that to you, Adams. With regards to, because not only in the medical field do we have Nigerians, pulling out of the country, but why do Nigerians leave?
Okay, thank you very much. I also say happy Workers' Day to you, even though your profession takes the sacrifice.
Absolutely. I hardly get compliments, so I appreciate this. Absolutely.
So I will first start that this idea of this Japa, as it's called, Nigerians migrating in droves abroad to seek greener pastures, as the case is. It goes a long way. It's in the 80s, we had a similar situation. And the federal military government set up what they call a brain drain commission to look at how to mitigate or how to stop these factors. Unfortunately, as events evolved and probably got, let me say, somewhat better, that rate of people traveling reduced. It picked up again in the last 10 years, and that is because of, we can circle it on two bases. One is the social factors, the idea of insecurity. As you rightly said, people even earning within a certain middle class, higher middle class earnings are still living in droves. Because you look at social factors like insecurity in Nigeria, that has taken an upbeat. You also look at the general state of despondency. You know, we look at the economic situation. You look at even obedience to the rule of law. So all these factors generally tend to scare people away. You will find out that people at a very high echelons in the society might not even want to go because of they are earning so much here, but you will see them moving their kids abroad. So there is some sort of, should I call it, a matter of critical emergency that everybody seems to want to press the panic button now, or the exit button now out of the country. So I believe that the incoming government, as it is, has a long way to go about this.
A long way. Hopefully that long way is cut short, and you know, we address some of these things that you spoke about. But you know, we can't solely blame all of this on government, you know, so to speak, because we say, you know, the responsibility for us to make the country work, you know, lies on all of us. Me, you know, those abroad, you know, and those who are even staying back in the country. So. Moving forward, what can we do individually to ensure that, you know, things are better, so we don't, you know, tend to decide one day to get up and leave? What can we do differently?
As a people, I believe we know right from wrong. And I always say this. In 2015, from the day President Muhammad Buhari was sworn into office, I think for the first 1 month, 2 months, everything was on like auto reset. All the civil servants, those who didn't used to go to work, everybody started going to work. Everybody was checking files to make sure everything, all the T's crossed, all the I's were dotted. We know what to do. After a while, when they saw the lackadaisical attitude of the government, everything went back to normal. Now, if you look at the class or the group of people that are trying to japa from this country, you discover that it is not those at the top. It is those that are either at the entry level or at the mid level.
We've seen managers, you know, succumb to brain drain.
How about directors?
Well, you never can
We
tell.
see those at the top. They don't go because they are there. And I'm sorry to say this, but some of them are the ones who are even truncating these issues, because at times you see there is a budget or there is something that has been, provision has been made for certain things, and then they sit on it. They don't even allow these things to work. These are things that we know that happen. So a lot needs to be. We need a check, supervision. The governments, there's no way we can analyze or make emphasis on these things without completely training out the government. Because when it comes to supervision or making emphasis that certain things work, it all goes down to the government.
So, I mean, what if, can we have a situation where people would be patriotic, people who are living abroad, Nigerians who are living abroad, be patriotic and say, oh, I want to come back home and change things, you know, from the way they are to the way we want them to be, or the way they ought to be? Are we likely to see that happening?
Yes. To answer your question once more, when you look at, I say numbers don't lie. For the last 5-6 years, Nigerians in diaspora has remitted north of $20 billion annually to the country. It will interest you to know that we have gotten more funds, inflow of remittances to Nigeria than we've actually made from oil, sale of oil. We've also made more from remittances, almost 4 times than foreign direct investment in this country. So it answers your question that the average Nigerian is not necessarily going abroad to seek greener pastures and just want to remain there because they hate their country. No, the average Nigerian who has to go is practically being pushed out of this country. But is there a good news to this? And is there an opportunity for the government to make amends and ameliorate the situation? I would say a big yes. And that answers your point. That brings you your question, how do we solve this problem? Should our government, let me say incoming government now, make things right by trying to stabilize the economy, because we've had inflationary issues wiping out and eroding all the efforts people have made. We have a situation whereby incoming government also tries to obey rules and regulations. That's the rule of law, obeying court orders and all that, and also working on social factors, because some people have gone abroad because of the healthcare situations, and also labor laws. He rightly talked about doctors and medical professionals, leaving to chiefly maybe countries like United Kingdom, Saudi Arabia, and co. Perhaps one of the reasons why they have to go is because they are not receiving comparative funding as they were. 5 years ago, 100,000 naira was probably worth 5 times in value what it is now. So that is probably earning 500,000 naira as of today. So some of these people have left because of this whole situation. And I believe with time, there's a lot to be done, as I said, but the healing process and the states to bring people back so that they have confidence, to kind of restore confidence in the system, or at least even avoid those available here now from moving. I think we have the opportunity.
All right, let's quickly hear from someone who now lives abroad. I don't want to say he is Japa, but I mean, it is what it is. Adegoke Fadare joins us from Nova Scotia. He's the President, Nigeria Association in Nova Scotia. It's a pleasure to have you on the show, Adegoke. Adegoke, if you can hear me, your mic is on mute. If you can unmute your mic, and of course, let's get on with the conversation.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me, Matthias. I think it's afternoon right now in Lagos, Nigeria.
Absolutely.
It's great to be here. And it's my pleasure to be able to have a conversation with you. All
right, great. A lot of water has gone under the bridge, but as we wind down, first of all, you are already there. What are your plans? If you are to make, let me just put it this way, if you had to make a comparison between where you are in terms of working conditions and how it was when you're here in Nigeria, would you be wanting to return back home anytime soon?
That's a very interesting conversation. So first of all, I would say that we need to ask ourselves, why are we living? Why are people living? I think we could use the word, it's a big word or broad word, which is the enabling environment. The enabling environment in Nigeria made it really hard and difficult for people to want to stay. And that's why a lot of Nigerians, whether they're middle class or they're on what you call the upper echelon, are leaving because the enabling environment is not there. There are many things that normally would work in a normal environment, in normal society, that when it comes to Nigeria, doesn't work. I give a practical example. We just finished the political scene in Nigeria, and we see the amount of violence, the amount of pushbacks by people. I've had the opportunity to be a deputy returning officer in a local election here in Nova Scotia. And the truth of the matter is people do not bother so much about election. Elections happen on the weekdays. It's like normal thing. So the things that should work in Nigeria normally don't just work. And that's one of the challenges. Obviously, part of the reason is because a lot of people see their livelihood tied to the political system. So that means that if you know somebody in power, you suddenly become a billionaire. So that's why there's a lot of do or die affair. But here in the Western world, you recognize that if you do not work, you do not eat. And that's not the case in Nigeria. And so those are some of the differences I see. I've had the opportunity, I run a business in Nigeria. I also had the opportunity of working in some of the blue chip companies. And I can tell you that it's very different. The enabling environment is one of the biggest issues that Nigerians are having. And if we do not reimagine or reinvent things, we're going to find more and more Nigerians leave. As the president of Nigerian Association here in Nova Scotia, I see a lot of Nigerians coming in, and they're coming in, in desperate and in dire situation, and it's pitiable to see that. And my hope and my desire is to be able to see what we can do with the Nigerian government and also the government here. Yep. And that's why sometime in November last year, we were able to welcome the Vice President Oshibajo, and there's some bills that we're working on, to be able to see what we can do and contribute our quota, even while we're away to Nigeria.
Well, let's hope that, all of these happens quite quickly, and so that, things can level up from what we have here and, what we have in the Western places. But I have to say thank you for joining us today on the show. Adegoke Fadare, for joining us again from Nova Scotia, President, Nigerian Association in Nova Scotia. Lupe as well, thanks to you for joining us. I see you and Fadare are twinning with the hat. But hey, thanks again for joining us, Adams, as well. Thanks for you guys for joining us. Hopefully by the time we come back here next year, things would have changed and Nigerians would be wanting to stay rather than, leave the country. But it's been a pleasure having you guys today on the show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.